Going on, everybody? Josh Kronfeld here with my buddy Rob. We are going over a positional breakdown of the Week 1 NFL slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. How you doing, Rob?
I am excellent. I am so excited. NFL is all about changing your life, right? That's what the payouts are about. So that's what I'm looking to do every weekend. Every weekend, change
You're
my
gonna be
life.
the
So,
first guy to win the Million Maker twice.
yeah, 3 times actually, same season,
Why not?
all even weeks. So this may not be my week right now, but I'm feeling it. Right, I'm feeling it. How are you doing? How was your week?
It's been a busy week. It's like, the week of Christmas or whatever, where like, what's coming at the end of the week. So every day is like a little bit longer, maybe, but we're getting closer. It's Saturday now, less than, about 27 hours, 26 hours till football. So I'm pumped. I'm getting very excited. I feel like my reads are pretty on point. This is like year 4 for me now, I guess, of really being serious with DFS, like full time with it. So, in terms of playing every single day, every sport, not every sport, but the main ones, the big ones. So, I guess with experience alone, every year I go into it feeling a little better, more talented as a player and more well-rounded. So I'm excited to see what tomorrow holds. But without further ado, let's RotoPros.com, everybody. That's why we're here. We got a 2-week free trial right now. No risk at all. Just sign on up, see what we're about, come learn a little bit about DFS. Everything we do is industry compliant. We give out lineup skeletons with 2 holes in them so that you kind of, add your personal twist to it and, can learn how to become a great player on your own. So let's do it, Rob. Who are you looking at for quarterbacks this week?
Yeah,
And
first let's.
yeah, DraftKings.
Yeah, dude. I figure let's. I guess I don't really have much to talk about with cash to start with. I guess that's what I was going to lead off with here. I'm mostly a GPP player in NFL. Now, when I say that, I mean that's generally where my mindset is going into the weeks. Basically, every other sport, my mindset is purely cash, and I'm playing 98% cash and 2% GPP. But this sport, I'm generally a GPP player, and I focus mainly on the Millionaire Maker.
Oh yeah,
That's definitely my tournament of choice. And then outside of that, I'll play just cash. But in the grand scheme of things, the Millionaire Maker buy-in so large that it can dominate a lot of your bankroll if you're not a massive bankroll player. So it's really easy to just play the Millionaire Maker in NFL because you only need 2 or 3 entries and you're maxing your bankroll for that particular session. So in terms of GPP, so that's generally where my focus is. I don't find it that hard to cash in. I did originally when I first started playing DFS. Like you mentioned, like this is my 2nd year now of really committing to NFL. The first this is only I would say my 3rd or 4th year total of NFL, but my 2nd year really being hard committed to it. And the research, I always say I'm on the shoulders of a lot of people. Like there's a lot of smart people in the industry that you just follow. And
of course.
so yeah, Saturday's a beautiful day because we're at the pinnacle of research. Like everything, all the research is done for us now. We just have to sit back and absorb it. So
One of my personal strategies from sport to sport is I try to push my research off as late as I can without hurting myself in terms of not getting it done. Just because sometimes my fresh looks and fresh opinions are really, turn out to be the best at the end of the week. And if you just agonize over it from like Tuesday on, by the time Sunday actually gets here, it's like, you've just changed your lineup so many times that it's but your most recent product isn't even close to the best one. So, week 1, it's been a long summer or a long time since football, but we're back, baby.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. And like to start off with quarterbacks, like I was saying, I guess quickly I'll put in my cash. My cash selection is Cam Newton. I think Cam's the easy choice for cash for me this slate. And I don't expect a huge ceiling from him, so he's pretty safe. But outside of that, we'll start with the GPP. And the first quarterback I want to talk about in the GPP setting this week.
Why is Cam your cash quarterback? I'm just curious.
Why? Rushing. Just the rushing upside. Basically, anything the Panthers do, it's going to be either him passing it to someone or him rushing it himself. because I don't really see McCaffrey. He isn't a power back. You know what I mean? He's not going to run through the gaps and like completely shatter people to the floor. So it's just not power back. So it isn't kind of the handoffs that the Panthers will be giving. But I guess is a way to put it. But yeah, the first quarterback I want to talk about for the millionaire maker in particular, I think is Marcus Mariota with the Titans. He's probably my favorite quarterback this slate for GPP, honestly. Absolutely in love with him. I think his ownership's going to be rock bottom. He has some really condensed DFS targets, so it's not hard to stack with. Salary's just right. But yeah, for me, the big thing, as always, is ownership. And especially this slate, Drew Brees is going to completely dominate ownership. And we'll talk about that later in like the Saints and how to maneuver high ownership quarterbacks and teams. But in terms of someone really low ownership right now that I'm absolutely in love with, it's Marcus Mariota for sure.
The only thing I'll agree with you on that is that his ownership will be very low.
I know not many people are big on Mariota, and I got, you know what, I'll be honest, I'm big on the Titans this slate. I'm pretty big on the Titans. I'll talk more about them later on too, but I'm pretty big on them as like a pure low ownership team across the board. And honestly, in the millionaire maker, that should be your first number one selection. The first thing you're looking at is ownership. There's no point in taking a group of people or players that are going to be 20% owned each, because you're just not going to get ahead of anybody, and you're just praying that you have one guy that's like 4% and does insane numbers. So I think there's a lot of chalk. Obviously, we're going to talk about that later too, I think. But yeah, the first guy I'm definitely looking at is Marcus Mariota.
All right, well,
you don't like Mariota?
My cash QB would and GPP for that matter would be Tom Brady. His stats on the first Sunday of the season for last year, I think, for the past couple of years, has been about 25 points per game, fantasy points per game. And obviously, it's the highest over-under of the week. I expect Houston to absolutely keep up and make it a game. It's not going to be a situation where Tom Brady's, they're running out the clock. They're just, dominating. They're not going to, they don't have I don't see them with the running personnel to have 4 rushing touchdowns between Burkhead, White, Jeremy Hill, and Sonny Michel. So, Tom Brady's going to get in there. Tom Brady to Gronk is about as old as it gets for, the safe pairing there, QB tight end combo. Tight end's a position that is absolutely an Achilles heel in a lot of weeks for people, and I expect, upwards of 50 points for that combination this week of Brady Gronk. That's cash and GPP safe for me. Obviously, you mentioned Drew Brees. He's, about as safe as it comes as well. The Saints in the Superdome, play, their stats are just ×2, ×3. It's crazy how much, they play well everywhere last season, but it's been particularly at home. They've been pretty adamant about not wanting to give Alvin Kamara more than 20 carries or 25 carries, touches. So, especially with Gillislee coming in this week, I think he'll vulture a few TDs. I like Drew Brees. I like Brady more for cash. Drew Brees would be a little, close second. And then I think I don't mind Cam Newton. I think it's like you said, everything with Carolina is kind of just, through him, whether he's dumping it off to McCaffrey or Funchess or, running it himself. So, you can't go wrong with that. But yeah, those would be my top 3 for cash this week at QB position. And then GPP, no, you said it perfectly. I love the Millie Maker too, but in the interest of full disclosure and like devil's advocate here, it is a very top heavy tournament, and it's like hard to really make a profit and make too much unless you're literally coming in like the top 15 or whatever. So that's not enough to steer me away from the tournament. I still love it. Any time you can risk $20 and win $1 million, that's like the whole reason. That's one of the first reasons I fell in love with DraftKings in the first place. So that's just wanting to play devil's advocate for a second, because I know what other people would say. But if you're gonna put me on the spot here and go all the way to Mariota for a GPP QB, I would go down to something like I like Case Keenum's upside.
Yeah, he's the next guy too. Yeah,
I like Case Keenum. He's only 5K, and Seattle's secondary is a little banged up. They're not nearly the defense they used to be. Denver at home, tough place to go. Cortland Grant or Sutton, I always forget his name. He's a rookie. He's like 3,600. I like pairing him and Emmanuel Sanders together with Case Keenum, and you're spending like 13K combined for the three. So that's it for me on GPP and cash for quarterback. Do you have any more to offer, or should we move over to running back?
Yeah, I really like Case Keenum pick a lot. There's one more quarterback I want to talk about here. Everyone is on Andy Dalton this week, and I don't blame them for a second. If we were drafting last weekend, I think Andy Dalton would have been like the like most elite, sharpest pick you could possibly come up with. Because last weekend, nobody was talking about how bad the Colts still are. So conversely, though, I think Dalton's ownership will be just a tiny bit too high to really find that much of an edge. I'm going with Andrew Luck this slate. I think I'm pretty excited. Sorry?
You got some balls.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited to roll with Luck. Honestly, excuse me, when in his career has he never attempted like 50-yard passes every single time?
I don't think anyone's doubting his talent. It's just his recovery, his arm strength, shoulder strength.
Oh yeah, big time. And like I doubt he'll be the exact same player, but like when you're at Lucas Oil Field, it's you know, it's kind of a track there. It's they're just going to be. I don't see them running the ball very much. I don't see them having.
They're not going to run the ball. It'll be Andrew Luck to T.Y. Hilton. That's always what it is. It's just a question of whether the Colts are going to ease him back or whether they're just going to, let him loose. And
I think they're just going to completely let him loose. Like, I don't know. I feel they've been.
T.Y. is a great combo. Their stats are crazy at home. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually a little bit different mindset of the stacking option there with Ty. I think the Bengals are going to shut down Ty. That's my own personal take, but I find the Bengals scheme all the time for that one wide receiver, and that's literally what the Colts are. Now, if you were to ask me about a season-long pick, I've been on Ryan Grant for quite a while. I think he could have a really big breakout season for like a really late draft pick, but for DFS, I just don't see it that week. And I'm more on the tight end side of things for the Colts. But we'll get to that later. Like, I like Jack Doyle a lot for cash in particular, but
not worried about Eric Ebron's presence.
See, I like both of them together in a GPP is kind of funny to me, right? It reminds me of like
Luck. Yeah, that's an interesting stack with Luck.
Remember all that like 5 straight weeks last season, Ingram and Kamara won people money every single week, and every single week following, everyone like, okay, it's not
sustainable. That was one of my favorite stacks at home last year.
Right? So like I'm honestly thinking about Ebron was catching touchdowns from both Luck and who's their backup there? I can't even remember right now.
Is it Brissett still?
No. Anyways, maybe it was Brissett. I know he was there, obviously, but anyways, irrelevant. Ebron was catching touchdown passes from both. Doyle was seeing a ton of volume, so I have no reservations about the pair of them with Luck in like if you're in like 150 max tournament entry kind of thing, and like you really need to stand out if you want to have a hope at winning, use both the tight ends from the Colts. I think that would be pretty funny and still not like selling yourself off for just giving your money away. It is a very distant but viable game script.
Just to summarize, Rob's GPP options are Cam Newton and Andrew Luck. Cash is Cam Newton and his GPP is Luck and Mariota. And for myself,
and Keenum too.
Yeah, and Keenum. For myself, it's Brady and Breeze and did I say Cam or did I say someone else?
No, you're on the Keenum train too. So yeah, we're both on the Keenum. So I'm really big into that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So moving on to running back. In terms of cash this week, I think it's very easy for a lot of people just to go right to Alvin Kamara. I think it's either the highest over under or right there, off by a point or two to New England. But like we mentioned before, the Saints in the Superdome. Mark Ingram suspended for the first 4 weeks. Looks like the Saints literally have no one other than Gillislee, who they just signed, and that's like it on the roster. So unless they call someone up from their practice squad, at the moment it's looking like Kamara is going to be a workhorse, but I don't know. He's really not really built for that. So he's.
Yeah, why don't you talk about Thomas now? Take the opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. He's safe this week for sure. Alvin Kamara will probably be what everyone goes to. But what I'm personally going to do, and what I've heard some people around the industry talk about that I definitely think is intriguing and I agree with, is Michael Thomas as a wonderful GPP kind of pivot off of Alvin Kamara. We know Gillislee was just brought in this week to kind of handle the goal line duties for New Orleans. And Kamara, he'll probably get in there once. He can score from anywhere on the field. So, it's not out of the question that he breaks at least one. But Tampa Bay's coaching staff has kind of made it clear that their focus this season is on stopping the run, in particular this week in New Orleans, which is an interesting strategy considering their secondary is horrendous. So I personally think there's enough value this week at running back, and there's a lot of guys in the 6 to 7K range that I think could do just as well as Kamara, if not better. So I'll personally be taking this opportunity to plug Michael Thomas in there. And, like again, as people around the industry have said, if at the end of the day, Michael Thomas is looking at, 7, 8 catches, 100 yards, 1 to 2 touchdowns, and Kamara's just got like his 120, 130 yards, but, Gillis, 4 or 5 catches, but Gillislee stole his touchdowns. You're going to, the right side of GPPs is going to have, Thomas in their lineup.
No, I couldn't agree more. I'm actually taking a stand and not playing Kamara outside of cash at all this weekend.
Probably going to house his first 3 handoffs just because we're fading him.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And that's generally what happens to me, especially. I love red zone, but I hate when did you take Kamara this weekend?
Yeah,
it's
right.
That's the worst
Whenever
question.
Scott just gets silent on a play, the person's about to just go 150 yards.
For me, personally, I'm on the same side. Obviously, I'm not taking Kamara in GPP. There's too many what ifs with Kamara for me. What if Gillislee does this? What if the Saints get behind and they are finding exploitable?
I hope they get behind. Kamara is going to catch so many dump offs.
I know. Well, see, that's the thing. What if the dump offs just don't work for a game?
They sucks though, man. They can't play defense.
Yeah, there's so. Well, see, that's the thing.
Even if it was in Tampa Bay, I would still like Kamara.
There's no real what ifs for Michael Thomas. Ted Ginn is such a definable receiver. Literally what he's going to do. He's going to run a straight line for 50 yards. They're going to throw the ball as far and as hard down the field as they can, and he's going to catch it and run. There's no dynamic. He's really good at that, but there's no change in dynamic there where Michael Thomas answers a lot of those what ifs. You know what I mean? Where there's what if Gillislee? There's no answer to Gillislee if he does those things, where nobody's going to do that to Michael Thomas. So I'm totally on board with the Michael Thomas pick.
Yeah, look, I still think Kamara is going to hit value, and he very well could be, the guy that breaks the slate. But
at 60% ownership
below him, just a little bit more. You can really use the savings this week. Look, there's a lot of value this week. I love guys like Keelan Cole down to 3,800. And the whole world loves Connor, because Le'Veon's out, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The point is, there's a lot of value. And like we talked about earlier, I don't think the Saints are ever really just going to give Kamara 25 carries. He's not like a Le'Veon Bell. He's not, a David Johnson type big burly guy, and he's still incredible. He's arguably the most electrifying guy in the league, and I think it was a joke last year. His yards per touch, it was crazy. Compared to everyone else, he was just him and Gurley were just on levels of their own. But 2K less, and you're looking at Saquon and Melvin Gordon, and it's there's a lot of guys in that 6 to 7K range. But yeah, moving on. I guess so. Like we're saying, Kamara is totally safe for cash, but he's not my number one guy. James Conner's half his price. Obviously, with Le'Veon out, he projects to get 20, 25 touches. I think Jalen Samuels is going to steal the receptions and be the third down back. He was a tight end in college, very athletic guy, and it's pretty rare that you see a guy like Connor just come in and take all the handoffs and be full workhorse all 3 downs. But I think Cleveland is a good run defense. Simple as that. Myles Garrett was the first pick in the draft last year, and it's rare that Cleveland has hope in a season. So at least week 1 at home, they're going to be coming out real intense, and there's no Le'Veon, so I'm sure they feel like they have a pretty good shot at winning this game. So I don't think they're just going to let a rookie come in and we'll see what happens. I'm sure Connor will have a good game, and for his price, he's a great play for cash. He gets into the end zone once. He is the goal line back. If he gets in the end zone once, he should probably hit 2 or 3, if not more, X on the day. But I love Alex Collins for cash. That's probably my number one guy, I guess I would say, for cash. It's 5,600. The Ravens, they're like 7 or 8 point favorites at home against Buffalo. They should dominate the game. Game script favors him big time. By that, I mean they'll be up a lot of points and they'll be running out the clock. They'll be handing it off to their running back. Their defense should be, producing a bunch of turnovers, which puts Alex Collins, down at the, close to the goal line already, short field. And on top of it, Buffalo's defense really struggled with tackling people last year. So Alex Collins is a big, big guy. He breaks a lot of tackles, and the puzzle pieces fit. So that's probably my number one cash guy of the week. Alex Collins paired with the Baltimore defense. What about you, Rob?
Interesting. I like your take there, especially. I'm really big on the Ravens too this slate. I wrote them up a little bit. Everyone can read it anytime there this morning. I just put it up, but yeah, the Ravens are one of my favorite all-around GPP options this slate. But in terms of cash, I'm probably just going to take Kamara and Connor. I think especially James Conner is a free square in my opinion. Like I completely agree. The Browns are an incredible run defense, but how good are you at the 2-yard line or the 1-yard line or the 3-yard line? Like it just could repeatedly end up there, and he just falls into the end zone a couple times, and that's literally all you need. Like literally from that salary on either site, any site probably.
My fear with him is just the game script. Like if they go down early, I don't see him. They're not going to hand it off that much.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're totally right.
Run either, but
Yeah, it's. I guess my point with Connor and Cash is that you only really need so much, and
it's true.
Despite how the Browns are good, there's just so many other things that can happen.
Great cash play. I'm fading him in GPP.
Yeah. I obviously Kamara. Nothing that needs to be said there. A couple other guys I really like for cash is Joe Mixon on Cincy against Indianapolis. And another guy, well, two guys here I really want to talk about in particular. I think they're both very cash viable as well, but like at the end of the day, you can't own everyone. And like if you're coming off Kamara, the first guy I'm going to is Melvin Gordon, easily. If there's one player in the entire league this season who I think has the potential to put up borderline Kamara numbers, it could be Melvin Gordon. He's going to see an incredible amount of volume, especially I think Keenan Allen's facing one of the worst matchups this slate. So I'm not really keen on him either, which makes me even bigger on Gordon. I think he's going to see more balls out of the backfield. The coach was quoted in talking about how they were disappointed last season. He didn't get more balls out of the backfield for Gordon. So I see that being a huge uptick this season. And the salary's right. 6.8K is a really, really good salary. So I'm really into Melvin Gordon, especially stacked with the Chargers defense. Excuse me. I'm not that big in Kansas City this slate, so that's something I'm looking at. But the other one I think is both cash and super like GPP, really GPP sharp viable, is Christian McCaffrey with the Panthers. Now I do have a big concern about this game, and the Cowboys are notorious at just running the ball until the clock runs out, but I don't think that's going to happen this late because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball very well. So there's going to be a lot of times where they're just going to be punting it back to the Panthers.
They need the lead for that to work too.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of threats the Panthers have this year. They could be one of the most improved teams this year. They've always been elite, but they weren't like, they could be Pats good this year. They could literally have a really impressive season with very few losses. So I like the Panthers this year. I really like them this weekend. McCaffrey, pair it with the Panthers defense if you want. Again, it's going to be a low-scoring game if you believe in the game script of the Cowboys slowing it down. So I have no problem taking a shot on either defense there and just hoping, or excuse me, shot on the defense for the Panthers and hoping for a low-scoring outing for either the Cowboys or on either sense. But I like LaShawn McCoy.
He's pretty cash safe. He's going to get more touches than last season now that John Stewart's gone. They brought in C.J. Anderson, so he's not going to be a 3-down back. But McCaffrey's, especially in DraftKings where it's PPR, I think with his price only being 6,400, him and Joe Mixon, putting people like that together who are going to get a ton of receptions and just little dump offs, and who also have Joe Mixon has the goal line. I don't know if McCaffrey does. It may be Anderson, but if I were the coach, I would want McCaffrey to get some TDs this year so that his confidence is sky high. So I like him. 6,400 is a great price. 6,400 for him, 6,100 for Mixon, 5,600 for Collins. 7,100 for Fournette, 6,800. For Melvin. There's a lot of options. You can see why Kamara is fadeable, I would say.
Yeah, and there's a couple more guys.
Neither of us mentioned, by the way, is Rex Burkhead.
That's what I was just going to talk about right now, actually.
4,200, and he's not gonna get eased into this at all. He's gonna get starting running back work this week.
Yeah, I want to check something really quick here to make sure I don't look like an idiot when I start talking here and shoot my mouth off.
42.
He has a torn meniscus, correct?
I don't think he does anymore.
I have a torn meniscus. It isn't something that goes away. It's literally now, albeit I live in the smallest province in Canada, and this is not the New England Patriots medical staff, let alone he may even be on Tom Brady's special health system there. What's
your ownership going to be on James Conner this week?
Sorry?
What's your ownership going to be on James Conner this week?
48%.
Is he your highest owned running back?
Of the slate?
Yeah.
No. I think Kamara will be higher owned in cash.
Are you going to have a high ownership of Conner in GPP?
I think it's going to be sky high because, again, it's just a free square, right? It's just a free play where it opens up literally every door. Like Conner scores 15 points, but it allowed you to afford Antonio Brown's 40. It's worth it. You know what I mean? Where if you take Brady, getting Antonio Brown's actually really hard this slate. And I agree with your Brady take. It's just it makes things really complicated unless you're looking at a couple of Keenan Coles or a couple of
Cole. I think correct me if I'm wrong. When Marquise Lee was out last year,
he was
had the second most targets in the NFL, I believe.
Absolutely,
literally the second most behind Hopkins. So
it's
he's 3,100 against a pretty struggling Giants secondary.
Yeah,
I like it. Talk about a free square.
Yeah, no, it's another one, especially for cash. It was one of the first guys I locked in this slate for
right now you're looking at a cash lineup, potentially something like Brady, Gronk, Connor, someone like Amendola, maybe. Who else? What did we just say? I'm blanking. Sorry, it's been a long week.
No, it's okay. I have it.
People like that, and you're getting the gist of it.
Yeah, I went the Chris Hogan route, to
Chris Hogan's another one, exactly.
Yeah, Keelan Cole, Joe Mixon, Connor, Brown.
As our colleague Chris was saying last night, there's only so many people in the Tom Brady circle of trust, and Hogan, White, Gronk, it's Burkhead probably it right now.
Well, see, this is what I wanted to mention. Sorry, really quickly. I'll be really surprised if now. Obviously, I'm not a guru here. I'll be really surprised if Burkhead sees more than 10 snaps. A torn meniscus is a really serious injury that in the early stages of returning from can just like that snap back into torn again. It's really what's the word I'm thinking, a vulnerable area, especially for a running back where it's the bulk of the cushion for your turns and your cuts, where your ACL and your MCL give you the power. Your meniscus is your cushion inside your knee, and without that, you're game over, man. You're done. You're a completely different player. So who knows, maybe new medicine, you can put stuff in there now, like a certain type of cortisone that acts as the new cushion and it turns into special forever. Amen. We're all happy. I don't know. But as far as I can tell, I'll be very surprised if Burkhead just is smash bang into this again. And I think James White is a really, really, really sneaky GPP play this slate. For any format, really, in terms of different styles of GPP. Sorry. But the last guy I really want to talk about, again, going back to the Titans and kind of the Patriots, is Deion Lewis. I think Deion Lewis is set up to have an incredible season, an incredible game this slate. I don't think Henry is the guy. I don't think he's really that good at all. And I think Deion Lewis is super established.
Good? Did you watch the playoffs last year?
I don't think Derrick Henry's very good.
I don't think he. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a 3-down back, but I wouldn't say he's not good. That's
Well, okay, yeah,
no,
maybe I'm
dude. I
being
like that we disagree. That's a good
yeah,
thing.
no. Maybe being a little bit harsh, but I've never actually really liked Derrick Henry that much. That again
I
maybe
didn't
is
like him much either, but last
I'm sure
playoffs,
he's a good dude. Like I'm sure everyone likes him. He's a nice guy or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think those results are sustainable. Is that what I'm trying to get at? I'm not
yeah, no,
sure.
I hear you. I don't expect him to go into Miami and have a huge week. I probably won't even be thinking about him this week in DFS.
But there's been so many
I'll tell you, if Dion wasn't there, you better believe I would take him though.
absolutely. But like over the years, there's been so many times where at like the end of the slate, we're looking back. It's like, oh, that second string running back that got all those snaps. Why didn't we predict that and like pick that? And I think Deion Lewis is that guy. This slate, especially this slate, where a lot of people won't be looking to him to be any kind of a considered threat to production. And I think he's established this established gets. He took snaps away at in the Patriots offense. So like if he was a threat in the Patriots offense to get production, he's got to be able to do it in the Titans. And I don't know. I like Mariota a lot, and I like. I'll get to Delaney a little bit too. I like Delaney a lot, but I don't really like the receivers. excuse me, on the Titans all that much. So I think Deion Lewis stands to have a pretty crazy game this slate and go below 5% owned in the Millionaire Maker for sure. I'll be very surprised if he's higher on than that. But yeah, that's really the running backs I want to talk about. Gordon, Deion Lewis, and McCaffrey are my main GPP running backs. I think they're all pretty sharp, and Lewis is definitely has some risk, but I think again it could be something we look back on and be happy about.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
Moving over to receivers, I think Cash right off the bat. We already started mentioning it. People like Michael Thomas is a great way to get. I mean, if you're fading Kamara and Cash, you have to have one of those two. I think Thomas is more GPP of the two. We've already spoken about him, but he's a pretty safe bet for. He's got a hell of a matchup and great over under. So he's not much needs to be said about him. Keenan Allen, one of the things we talked about yesterday with Chris is I like to target volume. So people like Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins that just get so many targets and so many looks, and Hopkins is out there every single play, every single snap. I like to have those guys targets and volume equals opportunity. So Keenan Allen and Hopkins, one of those two will definitely be in my cash lineups. Moving down, we already spoke about Keelan Cole. He's 3,800. He had more targets than anyone else in the league last year other than Hopkins when Marquise Lee was out. So he's someone who I'll be paying a lot of attention to this week. And then you can kind of mix and match in the middle. Danny Amendola is someone that should have a pretty big role. I think given Devontae Parker's absence and Jarvis Landry's departure. So, that's 4,200. It's pretty safe at that price. And that's three tiers right there to kind of fill out your receivers. We can talk about my GPP picks after, but who are you looking at for cash, Rob, for wide receivers?
Yeah, obviously Antonio Brown. I'm just clicking that every single time. He's torched the Browns forever. So that's just it for me. And Keelan Cole is definitely someone. Yeah, he was one of the first people I locked in, so I feel super comfortable with him. Michael Thomas is another guy. I'm probably going over him over Kamara 7 or 8 times out of 10, honestly, in cash. So I really like Michael Thomas. Chris Hogan is how I'd round out all my cash cards, I think. Chris Hogan stands to have an excellent game here in terms of 6.1K on DraftKings. You really don't need that much from him. And Gronk may do his stuff, but Hogan only needs a few catches from that salary. And he isn't someone who catches small yardage either. He's a big yardage kind of guy, and he's still super reliable. So I like that a lot of his receiver routes break around the 15 to 20 yard mark. So you're always looking, anytime he catches the ball, it's not going to be some minuscule irrelevant catch. It'll be worthwhile every single time. So yeah, that's probably how I would round out my cash cards for sure. But cool. Yeah, what are you thinking?
I guess for GPP, you can go right to Odell probably to start. He just got paid. He's very, very cheap for him, 7K. Obviously, it's the Jaguars. Obviously, it's Jalen Ramsey, but a guy like Odell can take it to the house from anywhere. So he's the definition of GPP, in my opinion. Michael Thomas, again, we already mentioned him time and time again, but again, this is why he's the GPP special of the day. I guess T.Y. Hilton could probably fit the bill. His stats at home are like very, very inflated, especially with Andrew Luck. So, he has the potential to be one of the top receivers of the week for only 6,800. You're a big fan of him. I am too. I just, my only reservations are, have to do with Andrew Luck being eased back into it. But, that could very well not be the case. And then Kenny Stills is someone also 4,700. He plays well at home. No Devontae Parker, so it's basically him and Amendola and like a rookie tight end and some good running backs. So Adam Gase is going to get a little creative this week. But I would say for tight, I guess lastly you can put in like a DD Westbrook. Keelan Cole I think is definitely pretty safe, but if you really felt like you wanted to take a GPP twist and get off of the guy that a lot of other people will have, Keelan Cole, switching him over to DD. Or you can say Moncrief, but I think Moncrief is a little excuse me. I think Moncrief is a little more of a possession receiver and not quite as much upside as someone like Westbrook, who can is similar to Keelan Cole with the type of deep routes they'll be running. But yeah, what about you for GPP? I mean, if you're on Mariota, I'm assuming you're on like Corey Davis too, right?
I kind of feel obliged to, but I'm really not. I really don't like the wide receivers for the Titans. But conversely, like you're talking about, I hate the Dolphins this slate. I really don't like them. Biased, I don't like them most weeks. So it's kind of like
just like a lot of opportunity there within.
Yeah. I just think there's so many other options in terms of salary elsewhere, especially if you're playing James Conner. But basically, where I'm looking at my GPPs most slates is matchups and who has the easiest matchups of the slate combined with ownership. That's basically my 1 and 2 punch. The first guy I'm going to is AJ Green. The Colts are going to have absolutely no answer, period. And not only no answer, they don't even have someone who can properly play the position. So I'll be really surprised if AJ Green scores less than 20 fantasy points this game, and I'm expecting 30, 35 plus. The next guy I'm rolling with, Larry Fitz. I'm not that crazy about Bradford, but Larry Fitzgerald has one of the easiest matchups of the entire slate and should absolutely go ham against the Redskins team that I just don't think are going to be up to it against the Cardinals. Another guy I really want to talk about is Emmanuel Sanders, tagging him with Keenum. I think that's probably one of the sharpest QB to wide receiver simple stacks of the slate. Just the 1-2 punch. Sanders was by and far the favorite target of Keenum, so there's no point. If you're going to take Keenum, you may as well take Sanders. I think that's super sharp. But I think the final matchup I'm going to go with here this slate, like you're talking about Keenan Allen volume, Tyrell Williams on the Chargers has one of the best matchups of the entire slate, assuming, of course, that the Chiefs keep the same setup that people are expecting. But basically, that's really where I'm looking. I don't mind Crabtree, someone like him in Baltimore again, but Sanders' salary is just obscenely cheap. I think he is really someone that you should be locking in GPPs this slate at home, especially. I really like his upside. His ceiling could be massive. Djax on the Bucks. If anyone's going to do anything against the Saints, it's probably going to be Djax, Deshaun Jackson, for anyone who's not catching my name drop there. But basically, the more passing yards in a pass, the more vulnerable the Saints' pass defense are. So I have no issue with a little of him mixed in to some really big GPPs. But yeah, that's basically really my field there for the GPPs. I'm not going to be spending to anyone super cheap other than Tyrell Williams is probably the cheapest I'll be going.
Yeah, I like Stephon Diggs too, but let's move on. I don't want to throw too many names at people. For tight end, for cash for me, it's pretty simple, just Gronk. You can probably pivot to I like Delaney Walker. When he's healthy, he's always a pretty big part of their offense. You mentioned Jack Doyle. He should be pretty safe too, considering his price. But for me, it's just Gronk. I would never even consider Kelsey. for that price, considering it's so close to Gronk, and Gronk's matchup is infinitely better. So if you want to be that guy and just like insist on having a great pivot that'll be much lower owned, sure, Kelsey's a good option. The whole world will be on Gronk, rightfully so, in my opinion. And I think I think that's it for me for tight end. I mean, there's a couple other guys that like could do it. Young, no, never mind. I'm thinking of Jalen, the backup for Connor. He's not a tight end on here. That's just on Yahoo. So yeah, I mean, actually, I'll say the tight end for Miami, Gesicki. He's going to look at a lot of volume. He's supposed to be the starting tight end. He's only 2,900, so that'd probably be my Hail Mary GPP tight end play. But I'll have so much Gronk that it won't really matter. What about you?
Yeah, Delaney's my guy in cash, I'd say. Followed very closely by Jack Doyle. Yeah, I think I have some really interesting tight end selections for GPP here that will really help people. I really like your Miami tight end there, Gesicki.
Yeah, it's like Gesicki.
Yeah, I see it's Sicky. Yeah, cool. I don't mind that at all. I think that's a really,
really cheap. But I've had the tight end kind of screw me before when they just like go for one catch or a goose egg. So it's a very GPP play. He's a rookie. No one really knows what to expect. But Gase has been talking him up, and there'll definitely be some targets to go around. So
yeah, the tight end and defense is such a crapshoot most weeks that you can really. This is why I like the Millionaire Maker, because you need that low ownership random play, and the tight end's a really great spot to find it. I got 4 names this slate that I think are really going to go the next level for people, and any kind of mass entry, something where you really need to stand out.
Sorry, Evan Ingram's another good GPP play too.
Sorry?
Evan Ingram is another good GPP play too.
Yeah, Jack. Nobody wants to target Jacksonville, right? Obviously. Yeah, and I love Eli this year, honestly. Anyways, first guy is Austin Safari Jenkins on Jacksonville.
Giants can't cover tight ends.
Sorry?
Giants can't cover tight ends.
This is exactly it. Now, this is my favorite. When I first started playing NFL DFS, I had a notebook of facts, that like you keep trying to write down about the same teams to exploit every week. Right. One of the first things I ever wrote down was the Giants can't cover tight ends. And
last season.
Super consistent. It's made me money especially cash. You just blindly select whoever it is and you're basically set. So I know ASJ isn't on a lot of people's favorite list. He's not super healthy, but like Jacksonville have no pass catcher in the tight end position behind him, like literally nobody. So if he doesn't play, they're just going to have a blocker in there the entire time. So I like ASJ. He's going to get all of the pass catching opportunities for the tight end. And the tight end's always kind of been a release valve for 20 yards out for Blake Bortles. So I have no problem with ASJ this slate from that salary.
Yeah, I think I would prefer Tyler Eifert for $200 more, but I think ASJ is a good GPP pivot. I like him a lot. Like you just said, you can just blindly plug in tight ends against the Giants last season. I think Cleveland was another one of those teams too.
Yeah, I'm getting to them next. Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain people around our industry that like to just, follow the plug like that. Who do the Giants play? I'm taking that tight end. Who does Cleveland play? I'm taking that tight end. What running back is going against Buffalo? I'm taking that running back, and then before you know it, half your lineup's filled up and you just got to fill in the pieces. Oh, James Conner's, my other piece because Le'Veon's out. And then you have like 2 holes to fill before it's all said and done. And, that's kind of the name of the game for cash. So yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to the next step there, who are the Cleveland Browns playing? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Who's the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end? Jesse James. Vance McDonald's hurt, probably not playing. Jesse James is going to see the field basically every second against the Browns, and they are historically a nightmare against opposition tight ends. So again, if you need a basic play, especially in deep field where like a lot of times we'll talk about after tight ends, but like how are we going to maneuver different ownerships? And a lot of times when you start taking more and more players into a stack, you're reducing the likelihood that someone else will have that exact kind of formation of players. But with teams like the Patriots and the Steelers this slate, it's really hard to differentiate yourself when you take Brady and Gronk and Chris Hogan, and like literally everyone's going to have those three players. You're not being unique at all, so you have to add someone else. And especially this slate with Antonio Brown and James Conner and probably Big Ben, you're going to have to differentiate yourself somehow. Jesse James is a great way to do that. I also don't mind the Steelers defense, but I'm more on the side that Team Tyrod will get a lot done this slate. I think he has something to offer. So I'm really on the Jesse James train this slate. He's probably my favorite tight end that I'm going to be rolling with. I think he's super cheap on a DraftKings. I think he's only 3,200, 28,
something like that.
Yeah, just a sec here. I'll check. Jesse James is 2,700 on DraftKings. Yes, please, all day. Yeah. You don't even have to think about it. So yeah, Jesse James is the next guy. The third one, this is kind of a stretch a little bit.
While you're on that game, I will say that I do agree with you with the game script. I personally, look, I get what you're saying about 4,500, James Conner. He's a free play. He's probably going to fall into the end zone at least once. Like, they're a good enough offense that, they could go from the 20 to the 5 in one play with AB, and then Conner just plugs it in a couple times. So I totally hear you on that. But one of my big things that I would like to do to separate from the pack this week is Jalen Samuels. He's 3K. He's a running back. He was a tight end in college at NC State. The guy's super athletic. He had a decent preseason. Conner was better, but Conner got more opportunity. But Samuels did totally fine. He didn't have a Ronald Jones type preseason. So he's coming in there as the change of pace third down back. And if I am right and Cleveland goes up and they go up 10, 14 points, I'm not suggesting that Pittsburgh's going to panic and give up on the run, but Jalen Samuels is going to be the guy that I see taking screen passes or those little dump offs that they'd love to do to Le'Veon in the flat. And, if he breaks one or gets a touchdown or just has they're down the whole game and he's just catching 4, 5, 6, 7 of these, that's a great play at 3K.
Yeah, completely agree. I also like Njoku in that game too.
Pittsburgh plays the tight end so well.
But at the same time, the Browns are obsessed. Like, remember the Barn door, man? Gary Barn, it's rolling off four touchdown games without even blinking against the best. What?
Barnage, right? What was his name?
Yeah, the Barn door, baby. The Barn door. He was such a legend. I loved him. He was like right in my beginnings of NFL, right?
Yeah.
So he made me good early money. But yeah, I like a Njoku for the just like a good stack there. But going back to the talk.
Very intimidating nickname.
Sorry?
Very intimidating nickname.
Yeah. How I am going to maneuver the Patriots ownership is I'm going to game stack the game. I'm going to go Brady, Hogan, Gronk, and my big special here, my main man, one of my favorite plays the entire slate, Ryan Griffin. I think, it may have been Matt Patricia. It may have been him, but the Patriots have been one of those teams that are just brutal at stopping the tight ends from getting touchdowns.
I would be careful with that. I would be careful with that. Houston drafted a really athletic tight end in the 3rd round this year. I'm forgetting his name, but
I got something to talk about with him too. Yeah, there's a few of those guys that could pop up here. Ryan Griffin has had a really, really good relationship with Watson before he went down injured, and Fedorowicz was kind of like in the fringes there too. But Griffin and Watson had a serious connection, so I have no problem rolling with some Ryan Griffin if you want to game stack that game. It's up for me between a wait and see, I guess you could say, whether or not the Patriots are still really bad at keeping the tight ends the end zone. But yeah, I am pretty big on that.
Let me ask you a question. The Patriots.
Sorry, go ahead.
Belichick has a reputation for scheming for the best player and shutting them down. Do you think that happens for Hopkins this week?
Absolutely. 100%. And Hopkins hasn't actually been very good against the Patriots in the past. So I'm really not looking for a big Hopkins week, especially from that salary.
Yeah, I like the Ryan Griffin call.
Yeah, it could, it could go south really easily, but at the same time, this is the millionaire maker, right? And Ryan Griffin is literally going to be 4% owned or
I
lower.
mean, I wouldn't play him unless I'm running a Watson stack, but
Well,
yeah.
that's what I mean. I'm only going to play him in a Brady stack when like I'm
Oh,
looking to come
run it
back.
back with Ryan. Yeah, I like
Yeah, exactly. I can't really see myself playing playing Griffin by himself. That's where I would put in like Jesse James.
So just to enlighten our viewers, what Rob and I are talking about is when one of the strategies you do when you're playing a tournament like the Millie Maker and you have multiple lineups and you want to have a New England lineup or New England stack because it's the highest over under and you think they're going to win and it's Tom Brady at home. Having, your Tom Brady, Gronk, Hogan, maybe something like that. Obviously, you're rooting for a close game because you don't want Tom Brady to just not care and hand it off. And you're also rooting for a lot of points. You want it to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it's in your best interest, and it raises the ceiling of your lineup by having someone on the other offense who you're going up against to run it back with. So what Rob's saying is to be a little different. Plus, it's not very easy to stick Brady, Gronk, and like Hopkins all in a lineup. It's a lot of money. And someone like Will Fuller is a cool play too, but he's, even he's 5K. Someone like Ryan Griffin is 2,800. His ownership will be slim to none. And in the past, he showed a good rapport with Deshaun Watson. So that when you do things like that, it allows you to really say, feel like you're covering a lot of good options in terms of multiple lineups and have a good shot at one of them really taking off.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever you have something like the Patriots lineup, you're stuck with 60% of other people who have the exact same players. Just putting in Ryan Griffin immediately takes you down to like a 10% ownership kind
I
of
think even less.
level. Sorry?
I think even less.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great way to set yourself apart. But in light of that, like you're talking about the really cheap surprise tight ends. The last one,
if you give me 4 catches for 40 yards from a guy like that, I'm ecstatic.
Exactly what I'm expecting from Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens this slate. It's I don't know. They drafted a rookie Hurst, and he's out for the first few games. Yeah. Sorry,
hurt, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's hurt for the first few games here. So Mark Andrews looks like he's going to step into the role here of the main pass catching tight end for the Ravens. And again, 2,700. I'll honestly be surprised if he has more than 2% ownership in the millionaire maker. The Ravens are historically a tight end team. Like that's like when Ben Watson, I think it was Ben Watson when he played for them, he had like career after career after career seasons. They just love focusing on their tight ends. So I have no issue if you're really wanting to take a chance in a millionaire maker or a massive deep field GPP kind of scenario. Take a look at Mark Andrews on the Ravens. Read the write up on him. Do a little bit of research on him. It looks like he could have a really serious slate breaking performance against a Buffalo team that could just be like literally functioning. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like garbage, like absolute garbage. Buffalo could be brutal here.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, they. There's a reason that they didn't want to throw their rookie quarterback out there with, the weapons of Kelvin Benjamin, Zay Jones,
This could literally be a case where the Bills are so bad and they're giving up so much love to everyone that there's just going to be a variance play, some variance love, and literally a touchdown. That's all you need, a touchdown from Andrews. And
yeah, but like that's a tall order. But either way, they're going to be up a lot of points too, so they're probably going to run the ball. But
I actually don't see it as that tall of an order against the Bills. Like there's going to be so many points to be had that I could really see Andrews falling on a touchdown here a lot more frequently than say
running the ball the whole second half.
I would, you know what? I would even go as far to say a prop bet. I think Andrews will get more touchdowns than Eifert. Like that's how bad I see Buffalo potentially being here. Like they could literally give up so much that he could just fall onto a situation. But sorry to interrupt you.
No, not at all. What do you mean? We're not. We both interrupt each other. It's fine.
Okay. Canadian, my bad.
No, not at all, dude. We're totally fine. Moving over to defense, though, I guess this will keep this quick too. We already spoke about the Ravens. You know, Nathan. A lot of people remember Nathan Peterman last year from that 4-interception game. I don't expect him to be, that again. But I also don't see any situation at all where he comes in and has like a good game. So, it's pretty safe to say Baltimore will be pinning their ears back and coming for the quarterback. They're going to be up a lot of points, I would imagine. So, John Harbaugh's record against rookies, even though Peterman's not a rookie, Josh Allen is, so they can't exactly take Peterman out and put Allen in. So I expect Peterman to have a really rough game. Harbaugh and the Ravens D eat young quarterbacks alive. And everyone's healthy. I think not everyone likes to pay up for defense, but sometimes it's called for. If you have extra money this week, especially in cash with like John Connor and people like that, who you can squeeze in there, and Burkhead and Keelan Cole, you should have enough money for the Ravens. They're excellent correlation play with Alex Collins. And then moving along, I love the Chargers defense for $1,000 less. I'm not completely sold on Mahomes. I think he's a good player, and if it was a great matchup or he was at home or something, I would say, yeah, sure, he can do a lot. He can run, he can throw, he can be interesting. But going into San Diego, I'm not sure if Joey Bosa may miss the game, which obviously matters. So yeah, that does matter. I mean, he's one of their best pass rushers, one of their best defenders, period. But the Chargers just have so many weapons on offense that I don't see any real way that they're not going to be, scoring a lot of points or up most of this game, which means that Kansas City is going to have to throw. I don't think they're going to be able to just dictate the tone and hand the ball off to Kareem Hunt that much on the road in San Diego. This is a rivalry. They're division rivals. San Diego wants to start out the year with a win. I like their D for $1,000 cheaper. I think that's not like you can get away with fading Baltimore if you have San Diego, in my opinion. Those are probably the only two defenses I'll really mess with this week, to be honest, unless something happens that I don't see coming. What about you?
Yeah, I really like the Chargers is my number one across the board, cash or GPP.
Number one, huh?
Yeah, I love the Chargers defense this slate, even without Bosa. I just think the Chiefs are going to be up against it from the start here. Chargers at home is never easy.
They score a lot of points at home. They play very good defense at home. They're a tough team to beat at home. They're going to
force Mahomes into a ton of situations no quarterback wants to be in.
They have a really good secondary too. Very good.
Incredible. That's Chargers is where I'm going first. The next place I'm going is definitely the Cardinals defense.
I like it.
2,500 on DraftKings. They're my main cash defense, to be honest. Just my main rule for cash is usually take the cheapest first home viable defense that you come upon, and the Cardinals definitely fit that mold entirely. Not taking the Browns, not taking the Colts.
Last year, that just like the cheapest D was always the best. It's crazy. Remember that? Yeah, the Bears had a couple weeks where they were just like 2K or 2,100, and people took them just because of their price, and they ended up getting like pick sixes and stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah, and obviously there's some weeks where you take the Vikings defense and they literally win you slates, but I don't think that's this.
You and Chris, man, you Canadians love the Vikings.
Yeah, I suppose so. But yeah, I don't think that's this slate either. I think there's a lot of warrant to taking the Ravens, to taking the Saints. I don't see any issue with that except their salaries. I'm not interested in paying that high. The highest I'm going to go is the Panthers at 3,200. They aren't even really my main go-to. Same with the Titans. I could deal with the Titans at 2,900.
Who's that Saints cornerback? That was Lattimore. He was so freaking good last year, man.
Yeah. The I don't know, the Titans and the Panthers is probably where I'm going to be looking, other than the Cards and the Chargers in terms of defense. One thing I want to know, how much chalk are you going with this week? What's your chalk intake going to look like?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, Pro Football Focus, other podcasts that I may listen to, they kind of all make me feel silly for fading Connor, but my heart, something's telling me that in cash, I don't play much cash personally, but so in cash, if I were playing double ups, of course, I wouldn't even think about it. I'd stick Connor right in there. But I'm a GPP guy, and I don't know, man. I don't see him breaking any. So I think you're literally relying on him getting 1 or 2 touchdowns from, if Pittsburgh has the ball inside the 10-yard line a couple times. I think he'll get in there at least once, but which should probably happen. There, Antonio Brown destroys Cleveland. I'm sure he'll break free for a bunch of catches. And then once that happens, they have to start paying a little bit more attention to the pass. And, Connor had a good preseason, so I could be completely wrong, but something about this Connor stuff I feel like I should fade him. I don't know what it is. I want to listen to my gut on it.
Well, I think one of the big things about Connor is, in particular,
sorry, I'm saying sorry. I fade him for GPP. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. One of the big things for Connor is that it's almost impossible to take Kamara and Brown without him. Like, unless you're literally planning to pay down everywhere, it's really hard to fit that. In particular with Brady, like, it's impossible at that point. So, like, you're literally forced into a door where you're like, do I want to play these players? Of course I want to play these players. How can I play these players? James Conner. So it isn't even that, like, James Conner is the
right.
player.
I know everyone's not sitting here expecting him to get like 200 yards or anything.
Exactly. But, like, at the same time, too, that's why he's getting so much ownership, because he validates the Kamara selections. He validates the Brown and Kamara and AJ Greens, or he validates all these huge salaries, which people want to obviously play. Like, how many times, like, unknown to everyone, the winning millionaire maker card could have been a card that left $2,000 on the table. You know what I mean?
Dude, so, I'm a big advocate of that. Trust me.
Exactly.
I'm the last person in the world to think that you need to spend your DFS dollars to have the best possible lineup.
Exactly. And, like,
I'm convinced the best lineup probably has thousands, off of it each week.
And it's probably unmade most weeks, right? But, like, that's the thing about Connor, is he's a huge validation for everyone to be able to play these salaries that they want to play, but they don't have to. Like, your running backs can literally be Gordon and McCaffrey, and you're set, or Mixon, or
Saquon's an interesting play this week.
Exactly, and, like, nobody is talking about DJ. Nobody is talking about DJ.
Yeah,
like, it's true. I think the reason
I almost took him #1 in my season-long league. I was very
again, it's another one of those injuries where I'm not sure about, but, like,
I think he's totally fine now.
When Bell goes out, everyone's like, "Oh, these high salaries leave a poor taste in my mouth," and it's like, why would you not take Kamara?
It's a very good point, honestly. I almost prefer David Johnson to Kamara at this point.
Oh, exactly. And, like, especially when you stack it with the Cards defense. Oh my God, talk about low owned and, like, high upside. So yeah, I think that's a really smart thing to do. Like, I'm not playing any more than 2 chalk on any given card. And, like, that's Brown.
The chalk that I genuinely like a lot is Keelan Cole.
Yeah, like, hard to shake that.
Yeah, it's hard. He's gonna get the receptions, he's gonna get the targets. He should be getting the looks in the red zone. Like,
and then he's kind of like a Connor, because it validates a reason for us to be able to afford a lot of these guys, right? So, like, I think honestly, Keelan Cole is in a much better position than Connor is in finding a true ceiling, because there's
I would almost prefer either White or Burkhead than Connor.
White every time. Sorry, not sorry.
Why? Just because of the PPR?
No, I think the injury and Burkhead ownership.
Oh, you have the meniscus, right?
Yeah, I know, biased, right? But no, like, I think Burkhead ownership is going to be too high compared to what
I agree with that.
Really offering, and I think there's a lot of doors that open up by fading Burkhead than jumping in with that ownership, especially compared to all the other guys that are on the Patriots. Like,
isn't Houston? They're healthy, right, up front. Like, they have a very good defensive front.
Yeah. So he actually, one of my best buddies is, like, diehard Texans defense. Like, all last season, it was like, if he ever needed to rely on someone.
They have a very talented defense, but, like,
and they were injured.
Don't play it like it. Yeah.
Oh, they're incredible. Well, they're always so injured. They're always so injured. It's like, anyways, they have arguably one of the best defenses in the league that just can't stay healthy. And there's nothing to suggest really that, other than the Patriots being the Patriots, but there's nothing to suggest that the Texans can't be capable out there. and at least put up a fight. Like, this isn't going to be against the Jets or the Bills where the Patriots could legitimately score a 50-0 win. Like, the Texans are going to play this game, especially at New England. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I literally don't have the stats in front of me, but there's something in my mind that's saying that Houston plays well in New England.
I mean, I don't know if you remember last year, but the Chiefs came into New England week 1 and they dropped like 35 points on them. And no one had them, but anyone who had Alex Smith, Tyreek, like Kareem Hunt, if you stack that week 1 I think it was a Thursday night game. I don't know if I remember, but either way, whatever slate that was, like that was the special sauce right there.
I don't even feel like New England's good at home in week 1. I feel like there's they're
not a defensive powerhouse.
No,
they're not going to come in and just like. I don't even know if New England's a top 10 defense right now in the league. Like, so I'm not going to see Houston come in and dominate them. I don't think that'll happen, but my first gut instinct this week was Watson, Hopkins, like a little fun little stack like that. And I know Belichick schemes for the best player, and you better believe he's going to come up with something to stick 4 or 5 guys on Hopkins and to bang him and bump him and, just disrupt his flow. But the short sample size last year with Hopkins and Watson, it didn't matter what coach, what player, what scheme. They just, it's the bomb is hard to guard, and New England they don't have the best corners in the league.
No, I don't know. They're going to open up somewhere. That's why I like
Gilmore's good, but I don't think he's going to shut down Duke.
But yeah, it's tough for me to really side with too many Patriots. Like, it's one thing when someone's super high owned. It's another thing when someone's super high salary. But when they're high salary and high owned, that opens up so many doors in the Millionaire Maker for serious edge where you can just fade them and hope. And that could be worth $1 million. You don't even have to, and that's like at the worst possible scenario.
I'll make it very simple. The best lineup this week is going to consist of at least 6 players no one's talking about.
There's so much chalk this week that I don't even know like how I could see Melvin Gordon still getting 20% ownership, and like not
that many bell cow backs.
Yeah, exactly. So like you're going to need an edge this slate. You're going to need a really strange edge. I think tight end is the place to find it. Someone like Jesse James isn't going to be high owned, and he really should be. But I don't know.
If Gronk goes for like 2 touchdowns and 100 yards, like it's going to be hard to not have him in cash.
Yeah, and like I may just straight up fade Gronk. I don't know.
Tough.
I know, right? Well, like I don't know. There's a lot of things that can happen.
The thing is, he's got a lot of incentives built into his contract this year, so he's going to really, not that he's going to try any harder this year than, other years to not get hurt, because that's just silly to say that. But
do you remember, was it last season or 2 seasons ago, he had like that rule where if you got 2 more catches, he had made $6 million more, and they didn't throw him the ball. So like, I don't know. I don't trust the incentive concept to like, they could literally just scheme to not get
to me, it's about Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady's pretty much a lock. Who's he going to throw the ball to? Hogan, Gronk, that's it. He doesn't have that, or running backs. That's it. That's all he has. Dump it off to.
I like Hogan.
I don't trust Cordero Patterson, I don't trust, I don't even know who else to say. Like Malcolm Mitchell, they still have him.
Yeah, I wanted to say quickly, I like Hogan to Gronk as we would Thomas to Kamara as that kind of pivot. I think Chris Hogan is one of my favorite all-around plays this slate just because Gronk is going to be so high owned. Yes, his projections are sky high, and yes, Gronk is an incredible player.
Position, I'd agree with you. I just can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's the point of the show.
Yeah, that's all I really have to say, everyone.
All right, let's take it away finally with just who's your absolute lock of the week, and then I'll throw mine out after.
My absolute lock of the week, AJ Green.
I like it a lot. The Colts definitely struggle in the secondary. It could be a shootout. AJ, I think he went in there last year and had like 180 yards. He dominated last year.
AJ Green and Antonio Brown into the same card would be pretty sweet.
Those are good guys to stick together because they just break those like 50-yard bombs sometimes, and your lineup just gets injected with like 15, 16 points. It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
So I like that call. For me,
what about you?
Oh man. I'm gonna try and be a little different here. So let me see what I can pull up. You went with running back. I'm sorry, you went with a wide receiver. I'm gonna try and go with a running back. I think my conviction play of the week is gonna be David Johnson.
I love it. I love it.
I like it a lot, dude. You really got me thinking about him. And I think it's an awesome play. Everyone's on Kamara for that price. Obviously, I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, guess what, guys? A guy who costs almost 9K is going to do well." But you may sneak past some people this week if Kamara doesn't really get the touchdowns and David Johnson has his Le'Veon Bell type week of one rushing, one receiving, 100 yards on the ground and like 8 catches. That's like Scherzer when he throws a complete game shutout type thing. Like it's kind of like shit. I knew he was good, but I didn't think he was going to get 50 points today. Like when that stuff happens, it can kind of make you go, all right, well, next week I'm definitely going to take whoever the most expensive running back is and build around. Literally in the DraftKings finals last year, if you didn't have Gurley, you weren't even going to come in the top like 20. So sometimes running back's the position that can just break the slate. And I wouldn't be shocked this week if David Johnson was that guy. He's got a lot to prove. And I think he just got paid, didn't he, like a week ago?
I'm not sure, honestly.
He either just got paid or he's like about to get a huge extension.
I literally heard nothing about David Johnson until 3 days ago when like I intentionally started looking into it. Like I literally have heard nothing. His ownership
I've been looking at it for a while.
5% here. That's a pretty heavy projection, obviously, but like how much can he be owned with everyone else? Like 5% isn't really that crazy when you sit down and think about it.
All right, now let's get your crazy call of the week.
Crazy call of the week.
I'll tell you what I mean. Jalen Samuels is going to outscore James Conner. That's mine.
Yeah, I respect that. My crazy call of the week is the Browns will take the Steelers to overtime.
I like it. I personally think that's not that crazy, but I know the rest of the world does. So
yeah, but I think the Steelers will still win. But yeah, I think I'm big on Team Tyrod this week. I know I didn't talk about him very much, but that's just because I think he's still going to be pretty highly owned. But yeah, I like Team Tyrod. I think the Browns got something to offer now.
All right, guys, we hope this was enjoyable. This is RotoPros, Rob and Josh breaking down position by position the Week 1 NFL slate, a little Saturday discussion. I have another one with Chris from yesterday where we kind of went game by game. So definitely throw us some of your thoughts. Join us on rotopros.com. We have a 2-week free trial going, and just come be a part of the conversation.
Hit us up on Twitter too, because it's a really easy way to get at us for any questions.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. See you later, Rob.
Later.